We are full-time RVers, mean we do not have a sticks and bricks home, and we'd made the conscious decision 18 months ago to sell all of our properties and just travel. And we've done that for quite a while and enjoyed that and still enjoy it, but not so much on December the 10th, 2021.
We consider home base, and that's a place that we always come back to be at Reelfoot Lake here in Western Tennessee. That was a Friday, and I had gotten there earlier, and Neal was coming in from work. We were going to spend the weekend at the lake, and of course, like everyone else, we'd been watching the news, watching the weather all through the week, and just kind of keeping an eye to the sky, as they say, but really felt inside in our spirit that we needed to be prepared. And we started watching it progress through the counties, headed our way, and they kept using words like historic and like unusually strong storms with possible tornadoes. And it literally started over 100 miles away in Arkansas, traveled up through the Boot Hill of Missouri between Caruthersville and Hayti. Then it went through the river and came up to Lake County and headed right toward Blue Bank, and specifically Cypress Point where we were at. We just really felt in the press we needed to get out of the fifth wheel, take shelter. And so our first response is the wonderful state park right across the street, who has block restrooms that are open to the public, and we went there and they were closed for the season. And so then we went right next door to Tony and Jill's place, Cypress Point, and they were like, we have a brick cabin available, and we would feel free to go in there. If you need to stay the night, we'll figure it out tomorrow, but take shelter in that. And so that's how we ended up in cabin 2 at Cypress Point. He's standing at the door, fixing to close the door, and you could hear the wind pick up dramatically. And so I turned to him and I said, I've got Minka, our dog, Miss Minka, and I said, we're headed to the bathroom. And so I set myself down in the bathroom shower. There was a shower, not a tub.
And I had made my way and grabbed my backpack and a couple of items on the way as I was navigating around the beds to get there. And you guys were already seated. And it's just like it happened so fast. I mean, when it hit, I was still standing up, and it just literally knocked me out. It was unreal how fast it happened. And so when
I'm seated.
Yeah, you're seated, and it's just like, bam.
It hit fast.
Hit me in the face, chest area, knocked me down, and the wall of the cabin,
a brick cabin,
just fell over the top of us.
The weight of all of it just, it's almost like you could feel the weight of the storm picking that brick up and slamming it down on top of us. You were pinned to the ground and could not literally move an inch hardly at all. That you could feel the tornado trying to suck you out.
The wall itself is probably what kept us from getting sucked up by the tornado.
Even though the pain was terrible.
We could feel the suction of the tornado drawing, even when you take a breath. It was just literally, if you could imagine a huge shop vac and you in a closed environment, it just made it even more difficult to take a breath. That's what it was like. And then, just as fast as it happened, it was over.
A bunch of us friends get together and go down there for 3 days worth of hunting. We were actually sitting outside enjoying a 74-degree December day underneath this carport on our house there at Cypress Point. Just relaxing after a day's hunt, watching it rain, and we had an alert come across our phone. At that point, when we checked the news, it appeared that the storm was going to be about 22 miles north of us. So we went back outside enjoying the weather.
It started raining again, so I was headed to the stoop, and I looked at them and I said, "You guys are all right unless it starts hailing." About the time I said that, it let loose with, they said tennis ball size hail, golf ball size hail, however big it was. And with that, I pulled the door open and went running in, and everybody was like a train. Everybody's following me into the house.
As we approached the bedroom, that is when the roof and the ceiling started lifting off from the living room. I think from the time we all hit the back door to the bedroom was like, 3 to 5 seconds, and the roof was already leaving. After the storm hit, it was deathly silent. You could have heard a pin drop. It was just nothing. No rain. Nothing. It was just quiet. So we started doing head checks, right? Screaming out, is everybody okay? And we realized that our other two buddies are in the other bedroom. One of our buddies is kind of standing up. Well, he had stood up by the time we got over there. And he was covered, had debris all on his back, a couple 2x4s and stuff like that. And our other buddy is laying completely on the ground. We already seen blood, so we knew that we had some injuries going on. So there was 6 of us total. 3 or 4 people were working on our buddy that was injured, right? So we had to do something. We needed to do something. So that's when we went outside and just started yelling, anybody need help? Seeing people walking around, are you okay? Like, just trying to check on everybody. And then that's when there was somebody down by your mom's and them's cabin, and they said they needed help. Well, we walked down there and realized that the entire exterior wall was on top of them.
I opened my eyes, the wall itself literally just 2 inches in front of my face. Mm-hmm. And so managed to get my arms free. Of course, bear in mind, I was bent over backwards with the heels of my feet touching the back of my legs, and I was bent over backwards and the wall was here. And I managed to get my arms up, and I was going to push on the wall to try to push it off of us, and I decided right then Superman had to push that wall off. I couldn't do it.
The weight was just
too
unbearable.
Heavy. It was too heavy.
When it bowed him over backwards, the weight of it fell on my back and my head and instantly pushed my face down to my knees.
Right.
So I was totally folded over frontward with this arm, because I had a hold of Mika, reaching out this way. The weight of the brick and everything just fell on you. I could not move an inch of my body, being bent over with all the hundreds and hundreds of pounds of weight on me.
There was no way you could move neither one of us.
And you couldn't even hardly breathe. You were trying to, you could exhale, but you could not take a deep enough breath to inhale.
As I walked out the door, I could hear Josh screaming, somebody needs help. And it was one of those moments, as I look down, I see power lines laying across the back of the truck. And I thought, do I try to cross this? How do I get around? And Josh wouldn't quit screaming, get over here and help. The weird thing is you could see almost like it was day because of the lightning. It definitely was dark outside, but there was so much lightning, you could almost see. I rounded our trucks, which both of them were totaled, but you had to get past the trucks to get down to where your parents were. And Josh was already down there. And I remember looking up and seeing a water heater come at me. It hit my legs and knocked me down. And I remember Josh going, sorry.
Sorry, bud. It had to move.
But I jumped back up, and again, everything happened really fast. It seems like you had time to think, but all of us being in shock, there was no thinking. And I just remember you could see your mom barely through the side as it would lightning. And in my mind, I'm like, because she kept saying her husband was in there. And I forget exactly how she was saying it, but I thought, he's not making a sound. We're going to see something that we haven't seen before. We're going to see somebody who's deceased once we get this wall off. So to me, it was a very surreal moment. How do we get this wall off of him? How do we keep her alive? And then how do we get him out?
The weight of it. We knew we were alive. We knew we both were alive. We could tell the dog was alive. But the weight of it, the difficulty in breathing, the wondering if you had bones broke, you couldn't tell because the pain was so intense of all the brick and the wall that was on you. You really couldn't tell. And it's our faith in God, our faith in Christ, and calling out to Jesus, and just keeping to constantly thanking Him, thanking Him. You could feel the Lord's presence. I've never felt pain like that. I've had major surgeries before, but I've never felt every inch of my body screaming in pain the way that was. And, I wonder if I remember right, you were able to touch my hand.
Right.
And he was calling out my name, and he would say, "It's going to be okay, Karen, it's going to be okay." And I said, I know. But I could hear myself moaning so loud. And then he said, "Karen, I love you. Don't you ever forget how much I love you." And I said, "I love you too." And I think it's at those moments, you know, not that we were doubting we would be rescued, but my goodness, when you have people that you love in your life, you never want to miss the opportunity to share with them how much you love them.
So if you've seen the Rubble, those blocks weren't small.
Yeah, they were big.
And at the time, Josh was throwing them like they were pebbles. I just remember looking up and seeing him tossing them. And I tried to jump up close to him without putting pressure on the wall and throw off what I could throw off as well. And as we got the blocks off, the wall, you could tell it was getting lighter. And that was when I looked at Josh and said, we might be able to lift it.
I grabbed like a 4x4, whatever it was, and wedged underneath there and started raising. And then when we got the pressure off just enough, that shower that was on the back of your mom's neck, and that was something crazy too, is how does a fiberglass shower make a horseshoe? I mean, that stuff should break, but it didn't. It was completely bent over like a horseshoe and had her pinned right across the back of the neck. So we had the board underneath there and was going up with it. And she was like, "Oh, my neck, my neck." Well, at that point, Jeremy, I think you took over the board. And then I remember I reached down and was able to like grab the end of the shower that was, up against her neck, like the very edge of it, and kind of like pull back and roll it away from her neck to keep it from trying to flip up. And and once we got the pressure off, she was able to kind of crawl out. And as your mom left, then the dog come out of there like a cannon. That dog took off running, and then Neal was like, "I'm coming out." That was like the first thing that we'd heard out of him.
Well, I know it was 3, it might have been 4 guys that came, and you could literally hear them just grunting to lift that wall off of us.
Taking the bricks and the lumber and everything off of us. Eventually they got us out, and but our bodies were so in pain because of the instant slamming of the bricks on us. I couldn't stand. I could not stand. Every muscle in my back from the pressure being forced down in that situation. It had a spasm in my back. And so these men were so gracious and so strong. They come and help get me up out of the rubble and at least set me down. And at that point I was able to call, I think, our oldest son and say, where we were at.
Tell them where we're at.
They were coming.
After a little while, we got you to your feet. And those guys helped to get you across the rubble. Then they helped load you in the truck, and we actually drove the truck.
Yeah.
It looked like it had been in a war zone, but we actually drove it across the street.
The ambulances had not got there yet.
No.
There's you're trying to take care of the injured. Our oldest son had gotten there, but he couldn't drive in, so he walked about a quarter of a mile through the field to get to us. And when Neal discovered that our 3500, our dually, could at least run, even though he had to hang his whole body out the window to steer it, he put me in the truck, and we started to where our oldest son's truck was.
Right.
And then we made that transfer. And it wasn't until we got several miles down the road that the first ambulances were even showing up.
Well, I mean, you're kind of in an isolated region of the 2 counties, 3 counties, Obion, Lake County, and Dyer County. I mean, it's 21, 22 miles in either direction to Union City or Dyersburg.
And you know what? It really is the people that were there.
Yeah.
The people on the scene, the people that came, and we found out later that were from all around the country that came to Reelfoot Lake because it's a wonderful place of tourism, of fishing and duck hunting and just a family-oriented place that they had come in. And they were there to help. And so it was just like a miracle. By the time they got me to the truck, I was shaking. I started going into shock. Your adrenaline has been high and you're in so much pain. I was going into shock. And so I was shaking involuntarily, and I couldn't stop it. He was going unconscious in the truck, and our son was still driving toward the hospital, and our daughter-in-law was patting him, trying to keep him awake, and you know, it was quite an ordeal. And the Dyersburg Hospital was excellent. They got us right in, and we're still sore. We're still moving slow, you know, but we're recovering.
We are recovering, and
we thank God for that.
Yeah, we claim complete healing and victory in Jesus' name, and we believe that, and we've always believed that.
Yeah.
That you know, we know whom we have our hope in.
Yes.
And
you know what? Some of those that lost their life were believers.
Yeah.
Some of them were great men of God that made an impact in their communities where they lived. And why does God let one live and another die? We don't know all those things.
His ways are higher than our ways.
But what we do know is if we're still here, there's a reason.
Right.
And because of that, we are determined more than ever to be bold in our faith, to be bold in our testimony, to be there for other people. If anything, out of all of this, we've always been those that were there for other people, and it's so different to have to depend on somebody else right now. And it's made a recommitment in us that next time we see someone that needs a helping hand, next time we see someone that needs a blessing, we want to make sure that we're that person. Yeah. And we just thank the Lord that we're alive, you know, that God's not done with us yet. And our thoughts and our prayers go out to those who lost their lives. Right. And our hearts go out to all of those who rescued us and who cared for us and who even today continue to care for us. Right. We're appreciative. Right.